Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing about AI project cycle. This is the second unit in CBSE Class 9. We have already studied about AI. Now we are going to study about AI project cycle. That is when we go to use artificial intelligence for a project, what are the various steps to be followed. So the first one is problem scoping. Under problem scoping, we understand the problem. Why should we solve it? Who are the people involved? What is the problem? The next phase is data acquisition. So I try to acquire the data from various sources in data acquisition. The next phase is data exploration. Now, in data exploration, I uniformly put the data, and once I do that with the help of visualization techniques, I uh, visualize the data in various graphs and charts available so that I understand what data affects other data. In the next one, in the next phase, modeling, we develop various data models depending upon the AI algorithms that are there. And in the last phase, that is evaluation, I evaluate the various models developed, and whichever gives me the best answer, I choose that for solving the problem. We scope the problem which you wish to solve. This is problem scoping. We are going to learn about each and every phase in detail. This is in brief. You acquire data from various sources. This data now becomes the base of the system. So now with this data only, I'm going to solve the problem. Note that the data needs to be accurate and reliable. Please always remember two things. The data needs to be accurate and reliable, and this will ensure that our system is efficient in its working. Now, when we acquire the data, this phase is known as data acquisition. The third is data exploration. So, now under data exploration, we understand what are the underlying trends in the data. We uniformly put the data, and then we try to understand what patterns can we decipher, what trends are there. Uh, and all this is done with the help of visualization techniques. In the next phase, modeling, there are various models that are there. So now depending upon the requirement, I will select few model and I implement it. And in the last stage, which is evaluation, I will test the various models. And then after that, whichever gives me the best result, whichever gives me the best percentage of accuracy, that model is chosen for finally doing the work, that is for finally solving the problem. So now consider if I implement KNN algorithm and decision tree algorithm. Decision tree gives me a better percentage of accuracy. It gives me 99%, and consider KNN gives me 94%. So I'm going to go with decision tree model. Revision, that is just a recap of whatever we have done. So list the components of AI project cycle. So this involves problem scoping, data acquisition, data exploration, modeling, and evaluation. AI project stage, which is used to set the goal for the problem, to understand what is the problem all about. The first stage helps us, which is problem scoping. AI project stage, which is used to collect data, it is the second phase, data acquisition. The data needs to be always accurate and reliable. Accurate means it should come from the correct source, and reliable means whatever data I include, it should be from a reliable source so that I get the correct data always. Visualizing the data and arranging the data in a uniform manner refers to, it is the third phase, which is data exploration. Consider Smita is a data analyst. Her data model has to predict the number of COVID vaccines needed at a particular vaccination center. So now finally she has to predict the number of vaccines. This goal will be identified in which stage of AI project cycle. So here I develop the model to predict. So modeling stage will help me to do it. Now we move on to the first phase. Under the first phase, which is solving, I identify the problem and I also plan as to how should I go about solving it. We set the goal for the project. Now, one important thing in problem scoping is the 4Ws canvas. Now, what is this 4W canvas? It includes who, what, where, why. Please remember it includes who, what, where, why. Now, what is this who? Who indicates who is facing the problem. Who are the people who are involved in this problem? Now, that is who are the stakeholders. The term is stakeholders. Stakeholders are the people who face the problem and they will be benefited with the solution. Thus, it helps you in analyzing the people getting affected directly or indirectly due to the problem. Now let us understand what. Now, under what we tell what is the problem that we are facing and how do we know that it is actually a problem? How do we know that such a problem even exists, or is it actually a problem, or are we thinking it to be a problem? So, newspaper articles, media announcements, these can help us to understand like if it is actually a problem. Where? Now, where is indicated in what context are we telling? And when is the problem actually happening? Where is the problem happening? Like during what situation is it happening? So now this is included in where. Now, once we know what the problem is, we need to focus on the context or the situation or the location of the problem. So now that will help us to understand in the situation in which the problem is arising and the context of it and the locations where it is prominent. And the last one is why basically indicates what are the benefits of solving the problem. So if I solve why, what are the benefits that the stakeholders will get from the solution. Now all these 4Ws canvas can be included in a paragraph format and that is known as a problem statement template. So consider our stakeholders. For example, our farmers have a problem that a particular problem. So now that is nothing but the what phase. When they are irrigating the fields, so here the where is included. And finally, the ideal solution would benefit them to solve the problem in such a way. That is why the why canvas is included here. So, once again, the 4Ws are the first one is who means it involves the stakeholders, people directly or indirectly related to the problem. The next one is what is the problem and how do we know that it is a problem. The third one is where. So, now under where we talk about the context, situation, and the location. Context, situation, and the location. And the last one is why. What are the benefits of solving the problem? Dash is not included in 4W. So there is when, why, where, what. When is not included. Again, dash is not included in 4Ws. Where, why, which, what. Which is not included. So when and which are not included. Dash are the people who face the problem and would be benefited by them, stakeholders. Under dash block, we gather evidence to prove that the problem actually exists. That will be the what block. The third phase, the second phase is data acquisition. So now under data acquisition, I gather the data. Now, data will be nothing but some raw data that I collect. And when this raw facts are put together and I give some meaning to it, it gives me information. So now the data that I have can be either training data or testing data. Initially, when we give some data to the system so that I build the model, then it is training data. And then finally, I use the testing data to check the system that I have built. So, consider if I have a text, so that will be my training data. And finally, I give it some input so that I can test if my model is working correctly or not. That will be the testing data. Consider if I want to predict the salary of an employee. So I feed in the last year's salary of that particular employee. Now that becomes the training data. And then I'm predicting his next salary. That will be my testing data. If it gives me the right figure, then it will be that is my testing data has a good accuracy. So there is training data and testing data. Once we gather the data, we try to find out certain data features. Now, what are data features? The data features is what kind of data do we want to collect? The type of data that we want to collect. So, in our case, if I want to predict the salary, it would be the salary amount, what is the increment percentage, what is the increment period, bonus. So, these form the various data features. For any project, from where can I collect the data? It is possible through surveys, that is, I given some survey forms either online or offline. Web scraping means that I consider if there is a tabular column in the website, I scrape the web, that is, I bring it in an Excel format so that I can use it for analysis purpose. Sensors, there are various sensors installed in various ways. The sensors could be pressure sensors, temperature sensors. There are various sensors installed. So now that sensor give periodic send periodically, they send the data to a unit. So some sensor data can help me, or some cameras, that is if I want images or videos, observations by people, API, that is I can pass a form to people. It's very necessary to get a reliable source of data from where I get authentic, that is correct information. One important thing we should always know is the data whatever we collect has to be open sourced. We cannot extract private data. And the last thing is that there are various government portals also which help us to download the data. The two open source government portals are data.gov.in and india.gov.in. Now let us understand about system maps. So we use system maps so that we can find out the relationship between different elements of the problem. It helps us to strategize the solution, that is to implement a particular strategy for the solution. See, consider this is a system map for water cycle. There are various data elements. There is an arrow from one element to the other, and the length of the arrow indicates the time gap. See, clouds are getting formed, which gets transferred to snow, and the snow becomes river. The water in the river is fed by the animals, and so the length indicates how long does it take. The land surface water seeps underground, and this underground water reaches trees and plants. So what we see here is the time that it takes for each. Now, what we see here plus indicates as one element increases, as this x element increases, the y element also increases. If there is a minus on the arrow, it indicates as x increases, y decreases. So, a plus indicates a positive correlation between the two elements, and a minus indicates the negative correlation between the two elements. So in a system map, every element is interconnected. In a system map, we will also try to identify loops. Now, what are loops? Loops are like your cycles, and these indicates cause and effect. That is a chain of events that are happening. That is x leads to y, y leads to z, and z takes me back to x. So that is a loop in a form of a cycle. Then some arrows are longer than the others. A longer arrow represents a longer time for the change to happen. And plus and the minus sign. The plus sign indicates as x increases, y also increases. And a minus sign indicates that they are inversely related to each other. Data are the raw facts. Training data is predictions, testing the model, giving input to the machine or for processing. So, training data is what we give input to the machine initially. Vijay is a data scientist. Identify the ethical way he can use to collect data. Surveys and interviews, rumors, AI models, and imagination. So, surveys and interviews will be one right way to collect the data. Ramesh is working on a surveillance system. He has collected photographs of authorized and unauthorized persons. In which stage is he currently? So, he has collected some data, and that is why it will be data acquisition. Training data is to be reliable and accurate. We have already seen this part. Dash refers to the type of data you want to collect. That is data features. Remember, data features is nothing but the type of data we want to collect. We use dash to understand complex issues with multiple factors that affect each other. So, when we understand the factors and how they are getting, how each one affects the other, we bring in system map. Dash and system map defines a chain of events which signifies the causes and the effects. So the causes and the effects. So as in like X affects Y, Y affects Z, and consider Z affects X again. So that will be a loop. If an arrow goes from X to Y in a system map with plus sign, it means as X increases, Y also increases. Dash is an interactive tool which can be worked without any knowledge of coding. So, in we know about a tool that is Loopy. Loopy is an interactive tool using which I can work on system maps. Dash is the method of designing a model of a real system. I develop a model of what I want to do, and that will be simulation. Please follow the next video, the part 2, for the next two phases, which is data exploration and modeling. Thank you.